Everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, where every week I'm the headline guy. I like talking about whatever the hot story is and getting Bill and Scott to throw in their opinions and observations and all that good stuff on just the hottest news item of the day or the week. But every once in a while, as my two compadres here can attest, I like to go into the slightly deeper issues, the more philosophical side of the news. And with that in mind, I have one of those deep questions that needs a little pondering by ourselves and maybe by you too. So with that in mind, I would like to ask, what the hell is wrong with Joe Biden? This guy is the front runner of the Democrats. He's up by I don't know how many points in New Hampshire and South Carolina right now and all that good stuff. And he's losing his mind in public while the whole world watches, and nobody is taking this guy aside and saying, Joe, for the sake of you and your family, you got to stop this. You got to drop out. The two latest examples, well, you know what? I'm just going to have to show you this first clip. Now, the audio to this clip is actual unedited Joe Biden just doing his word vomit thing in front of a crowd, and then some wiseacre on the internet made a little animation to go along with it. But keep in mind that the words you were about to hear are Joe Biden at his very best.
And by the way, you know, I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Bill, I got to ask you, you know, we cut Joe a lot of slack. We know he speaks off the cuff and he's had a couple of brain aneurysms and all the rest. But are we witnessing a meltdown here?
Well, you know, first of all, what you've seen, you can't unsee. So thanks a lot.
That's what I do.
You know, a lot of people are saying, like, you know, Biden's out of touch. But I have to tell you, at my household, Biden's name comes up. You know, we've been discussing Biden frequently. I mean, his name must come up in my house 40, 50 times a day. Please let it be Biden. 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 So anyway, you know, there comes a point where this stops being funny.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're at that point yet, but we're real close. 'Cause this is still funny. But what's not funny is the fact that this guy is clearly now suffering the same kind of mental breakdown that many people his age suffer. And there's no shame in that. And there's no loss of face in it. It's what happens when you get old. It happens to everybody. It happened to Ronald Reagan. Yeah. Ronald Reagan, of course, was out of office by the time he really started to get bad. But the reason I want to point to Ronald Reagan for the benefit of Joe Biden is that of all the people, including my mother, who's still alive, although has not been really my mother for 15 years now. Yeah. What set Reagan apart was it's not just class, it was the elegance and the respect that Reagan showed. Because when Reagan, shortly after he left office, he basically wrote a letter to the American people. And it basically said, I'm aware of the fact that I'm beginning to slowly lose my facilities. It's noticeable now. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse fast. And I just want to thank all of you while I'm still able for the amazing life you've given me and for the chance to serve you and so on. And I've never seen a better exit, not only from politics, just from the world. I mean, yeah. It was a magnificent thing. And what it really was, and I think this is the point, Steve, what it really was it was kind of a love letter to the American people. It is true he'd already been president and Joe wants to be, but I can't imagine Ronald Reagan being aware of that and then wanting to be president. What it really was a message of respect for the American people, saying thank you for everything you've done. I won't be able to thank you later because this is how this disease works, and I've got it, and there you go. The crazy comments are fun to make, animated cartoons to, but you know, this is a guy who it's interesting how he's actually going to be the guy that they always accuse the Republican of being, right? You know, the guy who's so old and out of touch with his finger on the button. It's like this guy, well, let's just put it this way. From the signs I'm seeing, whether he becomes the nominee or not, he's going to fall apart on the debate in the same way that, oh my gosh, what was his name? Admiral
James Stockdale.
Oh, it's Stockdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same kind of thing. Stockdale was a man who'd served his country with great distinction, and he deserved a better outro than that.
Yeah, he sure did. Scott, I cut Joe Biden a lot of slack. I mean, I make fun of him a lot because there's a lot to make fun of, but I also cut him some slack because that's just who Joe is. But he also has this slightly more disturbing history of inappropriate touching, and this latest example, it's just weird. Not bad necessarily, but it shows a serious, I don't know, oddness of judgment, if that's a phrase. Watch this next clip. It's only 8 or 9 seconds.
And when they cut to the President of the United States.
Scott, what was your take on the crowd's laughter? The reaction, was that warm laughter? Was that weirded out laughter? What did you hear there from a very friendly audience, I might add?
I think it's that kind of nervous laughter where you feel like you've got to react in some way, and there's no appropriate way to react, and so you kind of go out of your way to make it seem like the candidate was doing something intentionally for comedic effect, and that you thought it was funny. And maybe he was doing that. Maybe that's what he finds to be funny. But it occurs to me, if I were in a like situation and my wife was speaking on my behalf in front of the podium, and I think that, you know, if she doesn't realize that she's swinging her hand in front of my face over and over again, I think the crowd notices that, and it almost calls for some kind of response.
Sure.
But the response isn't to bite her finger. If I'm a loving husband, I take her hand, you know, and just kind of look at her and look her in the eye, or even kiss her hand, which would have been an appropriate reaction to that. It's one thing to laugh about somebody's foibles and somebody's malapropisms and the mistakes the candidates make on the campaign stump. But when Bill brings that into the context of, well, frankly, what context could there have been for those remarks about his leg hair? Like what imaginable world would there be where you would say, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I want the next commander-in-chief of the United States to say in a public forum? That, I think, is worse even than the biting the finger thing.
Yeah.
Although, you know, when Charlie bit my finger, it went over very well.
Charlie hasn't aged very well.
Yeah, no. So I think that there have to be people around you when you're not cognizant of the impact that your behavior is having on others, who step up and say, hey, Joe, maybe this isn't the time. Now, I know there'll be some people watching this, especially people who are antagonists of the current president of the United States, who will say, well, President Trump does, you know, crazy things all the time. But as crazy as President Trump can look at times, I don't think you ever look at him and get the sense that he's lost connection to his faculties, like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's been this way since he was young, and he continues to behave this way in ways that are startling and crass and off-putting to some people. But he never seems to have lost touch with reality, and it really looks like candidate Biden here has done that. And like Bill suggested, I mean, a dignified exit from the public stage is called for.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jimmy Carter doing that to Brezhnev at some START treaty. Never mind, some nuclear arms negotiation.
Stop treaty.
Yeah, that's right. It was the limitations talk. That was Carter and Nixon, and then it was the START treaty was Reagan. That's it. This occurs to me. I mentioned Carter. In my lifetime, the Democrats have nominated, we're going to start here in 1972 and see how good my memory is, George McGovern, who was just a left-wing weirdo, Jimmy Carter, who came out of the nuclear submarine force back when Admiral Hyman Rickover was putting it together, and Rickover was weird, and he picked weird guys. He built a great submarine service, unlike anything the world had ever seen, but it was filled with guys who were a little weird, a little off, because that was Rickover's thing. And then 1980, you put him up again. He always hit the incumbent. So 84, Walter Mondale, like the last gasp effort of the New Deal generation. 1988, Mike Dukakis, a guy so cold, he reacted like he'd been gotten the wrong bill at a restaurant when asked what he would do if his wife had been murdered in that famous debate performance in 1988. 1992, the Democrats selected a womanizing grifter from Arkansas who, strangely enough, turned out to not be such a bad president. Then Al Gore, who is just as strange as Joe Biden, but in a completely different way. He's like he's the robot doppelganger of Joe Biden. That's the only way I can think to describe Al Gore. 2004, John Kerry at least looked the part of the president, except he was, just another America-hating leftist. 2008, Barack Obama. Wow, you guys nominated a real live red diaper baby for president. How did you do that? I mean, I know he won twice, but geez. Then Hillary Clinton, the thieving wife of the womanizing grifter. Oh my God! Okay. Republicans have nominated. Pardon?
The queen of warmongers.
Yes, the queen of warmongers. Thank you, Bill via Tulsi, or the Tulsi via Bill. And I'm not saying the Republicans have nominated a bunch of winners over the years. Boy, we've picked some real losers. But the thing is, even the losers, you could at least go, yeah, okay, I don't like this guy, but I could see them as president. Democratic primary voters, you guys are you're a little off in my eyes. Maybe you are going to pick Joe Biden. That guy who bites his wife's finger and likes having kids jump up and down on his lap after petting his leg hairs. Really? All right, it's your primary. Do what you will. We'll be here covering it for you. I'm Steve Green for Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. This is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like content of this quality, I won't say quality content, please, we would love to have you on board as a member. Go over to BillWhittle.com right now. Sign up. Become one of our producers. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.